YouTube up and live streaming here. So for those of you on YouTube,
Here we are.
here we are.
Good to see you.
Good to-
Welcome.
Welcome. Alrighty. You know what? Let's see if I can find some. Oh, here's one. Oh, this one.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah. Jose Feliciano. There was a
Yeah.
wonderful article on
Sing
Jose Feliciano. He has just recently released this song again with a whole bunch of friends.
Yes.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y feliz. I don't think we're singing in the same key of the guitar or anything. I won't. This is why we practice, and I tell you the truth, dear friends, we got here in all situation and settled in the computer on and everything about 3 seconds before we went live. Yeah. So this is why
A little befuddled.
we're a little different. Let's pick a different song. How about you want to try this one?
Yeah, let's do it. Feliz Navidad.
No.
No.
And there's always a chance that these chords are just plain wrong too. How about? Oh, here's one we can't screw up.
That's way too small for me to read it.
Come on.
Oh, wherever you are as we move towards this holiday season, we just see you being blessed. We know that it's a most odd and peculiar year. And so we invite you to look around, look for the good. You know, Unity says that we bless you in the name of all that is good and all that is love, all that is sacred, and all that is holy.
Amen.
And so come on,
Oh,
give us a song. I can't read any.
Yeah.
He's got
this
these things
one-
written in 6-point font
Well,
so that
that's
he could
just
get them all
it's,
on one
again,
page.
It's just the way technology is. This one isn't written particularly small. Just the technology decided to do it. How about thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump, look at Frosty go. Thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump, over the hills of snow. Frosty the snowman was a jolly happy soul, with a corncob pipe and a button nose and 2 eyes made out of gold. Frosty the snowman is a fairy tale, they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. There must have been some magic in that old silk hat they found. For when they put it on his head, he began to dance around. Oh, Frosty the snowman was alive as he could be, and the children say he could laugh and play just the same as you and me. Oh, Frosty the snowman, he knew the sun was hot that day. So he said, let's run and so we'll have some fun before I melt away. Down to the village with a broomstick in his hand, running here and there all around the square, saying, catch me if you can. He led them down the streets of town right to the traffic cop, and they only paused a moment when they heard him holler, stop! Frosty The snowman had to hurry on his way, but he waved goodbye, saying, don't you cry, I'll be back again someday. Oh, thumpity thump, thump, thumpity thump, look at Frosty go. Thumpity thump, thump, thumpity thump, thump, over the hills of snow. That's about enough of that. Oh, and we're on Let Us Pray while we're singing
praying.
Frosty the Snowman.
I think God
Oh,
just chuckled
God
with
knows.
that. And
God
told you we
knows.
were a little disorganized today. It's cold out. Snow is covering the ground. I'm having an allergy attack.
Oh, my goodness.
This is, and it is a joy to be here with you.
It really is.
Yes, it is.
We enjoy this time, and we know that people are out there watching. Believe it or not, we get your messages.
Yes, we do get your messages.
We get your comments, and we appreciate you.
Love to hear from you all.
So, we've been going through your mother's book, The Trip to Bethlehem.
Yes. In the spirit of Christmas, but it's not really, it's a Christmas book, and it's been very popular as a Christmas study book at Unity Centers and New Thought Centers, but it's not, these are general statements.
You know what I really love about this book? It's one of the best introductions to metaphysical Bible interpretation that I've ever read. Because it takes you through an understanding that allows you to interpret practically any story. When we metaphysically interpret a story from the Bible, we really understand that you can do this to any story. You could do this to an Aesop's fable story. You can, and I have done many modern movies. You can
Movies, even cartoons, have been metaphysically interpreted. There's a book about movies called Real
Spirit.
Real Spirit, that came out 15 years or so ago. Roger Teal, I think, and it's about contemporary movies, and they've all been metaphysically interpreted. So it's a tool. It's a tool designed to help us understand who we are, what's going on around us, and especially, I think, to understand other people in our lives, to get a sense of that.
Of course, when we're talking metaphysical interpretation of a story, what it's really saying is that the characters, the places, every element of a story that you tell, every element, every proper name, every proper noun, every main concept is an element that is going on inside of you, and that's the important thing, so that we can have identity with the major characters in the story, not just the hero,
everything, including
every component.
The animals, the flowers. There's metaphysical interpretation of such things as metals and jewels. There's metaphysical interpretation of colors and all kinds of things. Things like, the simplest one that comes to mind is, we are told that Jesus is the bread of life. What does that mean? There are those who take this literally and take the
idea of transubstantiation in the Catholic Church, that the elements of the sacrament, the bread and the wine, actually literally become the body of Christ and the blood of Christ.
And I don't want to damage that thought if that is your belief system. But metaphysically, it means so much more. You know, early Christians were actually executed for doing the ritual of eating flesh and drinking blood.
Oh, wow.
And that's
so-
the worst
so-
possible interpretation.
To my knowledge, there weren't any actual cannibals in the early Christian
No,
church.
there
but,
were none. They
but
knew.
they were discriminated against and persecuted because people thought they were cannibals.
Right. No, they knew that it was a metaphor. It's metaphysically. They knew to interpret this. In the book, it talks about early Bible writers, even in the Old Testament, had a sense of things, words standing for and representing other things.
There is references in the New Testament to, they take a look, I want to say this is Galatians, I can't remember, but there's a place where Paul is writing, and he's using the character of the Abrahamic story. And he says, now, this is an allegory. Now, an allegory is just another name for a metaphor or a type of this imagery that we use. And it's
Symbolism.
not intended to be taken literally. The purpose of the story was as a symbol, as a metaphor for our own lives.
And
different things can mean different things to different people.
they can be taken in a finite way, or they can be taken in a much larger, expansive way. For example, the metaphysics that I love about the Abraham story, you know, people, including myself, when I heard about him threatening to kill his son, forgot. And in my mind, God would never demand that a man kill his favorite son, his only son. But metaphysically, and historians have been dealing with this concept beginning through metaphysics. Metaphysically, this story represents the changing from actual human sacrifice that happened historically when human beings stopped believing that they had to sacrifice an actual person, and they shifted to using animals, lambs and doves especially, you know, using something that was very special. Well, now here we are, we've released that. We don't require a
sacrifice of
any kind other than of our own servitude, our own usefulness in the world, our own creativity, our divine ideas, and we don't sacrifice so much as to use and share and give.
And when we give of ourselves, it's not really a sacrifice. Yes, we are giving ourselves to God. We are giving ourselves to whatever higher power, whatever higher purpose you are seeking or pursuing. But that's a joy.
It's a joy.
Because it has the
Absolutely.
possibility of transforming lives. When we give ourselves to a higher purpose, we are changing ourselves. We're changing our worldview, and we're changing our world in the process.
And we become the gift.
We become the gift.
We actually benefit from the experience. We become the gift, and we begin to see other people in our lives and other creatures in our lives. You know, my kitties and my little dog, such a gift. And so when we think about the other interactions that we have and put them into the context of these ancient stories, some of them very ancient, and the stories we've inherited, the story of Jesus's birth, when we interpret these metaphysically, we get a whole nother realm of understanding and usefulness.
Mm-hmm. And these images, these symbols, these metaphors, these allegories, we can find references for them in Charles Fillmore, in Carl Jung, in The Archetypes of the Collective Unconscious. We're going to cover one of his disciples a little bit tonight. But let's cover a few of these. And now I'm always a little cautious when we get into this. We're going to be talking about feminine aspects of symbolism and masculine aspects of symbolism. But those labels, feminine and masculine, they are culturally imposed. And so these, first of all, each of us, all of us, have masculine and feminine traits within us. And so it is not
We have them as
exclusively.
resources. Think of them as resources that we can use, we can draw on.
Yes.
And so I was going to do the feminine attributes, and I'm not going to read the whole description or anything, but I want to share. The feminine attribute is a list of different potentialities. The soul. The soul is traditionally considered to be a feminine attribute. It's passive and receptive, and therefore a woman represents the soul, the form of it, so to speak,
And of course,
which gives shape to the spiritual essence that God breathes into the God image at the very beginning of creation.
and of course the woman that we usually think of in the Bible story is Mary.
And Mary, share with me the Mary prayer again.
Mary prayer. I
I
am now open, receptive, responsive, and obedient to the living Spirit of truth within me. And so it represents that part of us that is a feminine attribute. That's right.
And Charles Fillmore and Carl Jung both agreed with the idea that the soul or psyche, which is represented usually by a feminine sculpture or personality, that it's our total consciousness, conscious and unconscious, or our subconscious. It's the totality of that part of ourselves. And then we can go to the idea of the female, the woman being, it's the emotional and feeling phase of our being. And then, of course, we have matter. And of course, through the eons, the word matter and mother have the exact same source. Isn't that interesting? As a matter of fact, in some languages, mater, it's the exact same word. And the words share that same root, the common Latin root, and they are archetypal in that association. Then we have intuition, considered again to be a feminine trait, represented recognizably as a spiritual part of ourselves that intuits, that senses things without necessarily having to have a verbal or physical contact. We just know it. And of course, women, mothers are especially astute at that, I think.
Whenever it gets too quiet,
Well,
your intuition goes, bing! What are the kids up to?
yeah. And then, of course, we have the concept of wisdom, which is also considered to be feminine. If you look at the legal system with its sculptures of the Lady Wisdom holding the scale, making the decision. Yes, she doesn't need to see. She intuits. She has the wisdom to understand.
And as a matter of fact, the very word wisdom is associated with the goddess Sophia. It is Sophia,
correct.
the woman's name.
And then, of course, we go to the word and the concept love. And you know, the first writer of the first letter of John in 4, verse 8, it says, God is love. And he wasn't referring to the grand emotion. He wasn't referring to the emotional passion. He was referring to the concept, the energy of love that creates, that harmonizes and binds people together. And in unity, we say that love binds all things together. And then we can go to the idea of relatedness. Relatedness, you know, in families, oftentimes it's the mother, the feminine, who pulls it all together. She pulls it all together around the table or around whatever activity or wherever it is. She is the principle of oneness, again, that works in relationships.
And of course, it's a little bit of a stereotype, but you can see this even in the way that children play. If you take a look at the way little girls play as opposed to the way little boys play, little girls play in a way that makes up stories that are about relationships. Little boys, rough and tumble football, but
Cars and trucks.
Cars and trucks and things like that. But for little girls, it's all about the story, and it's all about relationships within that story.
Yeah, and it's an ingrained concept, an ingrained skill that women, females, develop. At least that feminine side. And then
Like I said, all of these attributes are in all
on
of
both
us.
sides, and they can be developed on both sides. So keep that in mind, because we're not talking about necessarily women as the feminine aspect. And then we have nurturing. Of course, we can understand that, the nurturing ability that helps prolong our experience with our families, etc. And it's thought that several of these traits have evolved because of the way women have to rear children, be responsible for caring for them 9 months before they are born, and then through their early years and on. So these concepts, these skills have evolved in our species as feminine.
You know, that too, most of these are societally imposed. They are stereotypical, especially today, because people are taking on different, very, very different roles. But historically, the role of the woman is to be responsible for the home, and especially for this child. If there's one overwhelming biological urge within most women's makeup, it is that this child must survive.
Must survive.
This child must survive. And where, again, traditionally, historically, the man he's a functionary of society rather than to the home.
Well, he's the protector. We're going to talk about the masculine traits in just a few minutes. Evan will tell you more about that. But just to finish up the feminine attributes, we have this deep inner life. And this indicates that the feminine principle governs the inner life of the individual. And I think most females do have a deep inner life. We are concerned much more about that inner experience than the outer. And that's, again, natural because the masculine has to go out and find the beast and slay it and drag it home to feed the family.
Now, when was the last time I drugged you home an animal? Here, honey, cook this up.
Cook this up, huh? And then we have the idea, which we've kind of danced around here, of the feeling nature. And this is, women have taken a lot of truly abuse over the centuries for their feeling nature. But without that, our species would not have survived, and it would not be as capable as it is today. The feeling nature is a part of the character of the innocent and the obedient Mary, and also part of the sophisticated and willful Jezebel. We have a full range of feelings and emotions. And so would you like to talk about the masculine? And like we said, these are neither positive nor negative. These are simply there. They are resources.
Well, again, we've mentioned this a little bit, but in general, the masculine elements or character traits are power, our creativity. Of course, I argue with all of these as being, again, masculine and feminine, because our society is just simply evolving.
It's changing.
I think beyond some of these
are generalities.
concepts. But let's go with this, because there is some value in these ways of thinking. The masculine attributes are power and creativity and intellect. We've talked about that the female aspect is of a feeling nature and an intuitive nature, and the masculine aspect or attribute is more of a thinking nature. But I was thinking this power. Spirit is the source of power, and masculine energy has more of a promotion of spirit rather than soul, more of an ethereal quality rather than a psychic quality. Mm-hmm. But power. I heard a wonderful joke, a Christmas joke here.
Oh, good.
Deck the halls with strong, powerful women. Kamala la 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 la.
Oh, I love it! Yay, Kamala.
Anyway, a masculine aspect or attribute might be reason, our ability to figure things out, to put the pieces of the puzzle together in an orderly sequence of events, to have a historical narrative, so that it isn't just it isn't about the relationships as much as it is the story from the past through the present and into the future. So this understanding of order that you take a look at somebody's tool bench, somebody who really likes to put everything in their place so that they can find the tool that they're looking for. That is an understanding of order, but it also has an understanding of sequence. First this, and then that. And if you don't do it in the proper sequence, it just simply doesn't work.
Makes things harder.
It makes
that's
things
for sure.
harder. So we talked about a masculine aspect being protection, the protector and the provider. The protector, again, that's dragging the wildebeest home.
Yes, well, and it's Joseph. It is absolutely
in the
Joseph
Christmas
in the
story.
Christmas story. We see him protecting his family as he takes them on this journey, as he finds a place for them to stay and for Mary to have her child safely. And then as they go, as they deal with Herod and the threats involved as they escape into Egypt. That is a very important part of this story, and we will talk more about that in a few minutes. Go ahead.
We talked that the feminine aspect was inner life, and the masculine aspect is more of an outer life. We said that the masculine attribute is that a man becomes a functionary of society, becomes responsible to society, whereas a woman is responsible for the home. I hate saying these things anymore, but it's...
These are archetypes, and these are things, once we are aware of them, we can use them to support ourselves in our own growth, in our own needs, in our own experiences. When my first husband passed, I found myself needing to accomplish things that were very masculine things.
You used to
digging
have
up the
to-
foundation of the house, things like that, moving things and all kinds of things. And I found it very useful to think of myself as having graduated from being the what are they called? The one who studies under, the apprentice, from being the helper and graduate into being the person who had to accomplish the task. And taking on those conceivably masculine type skills and learning them, I discovered that if you go into a hardware store and you find someone who looks kindly and smart, who's worked there for a while, he will give you all kinds of help. Even to physically showing you how to install an electric plug or to do other things, which screwdriver to use, and things like that. And men know this. Men have this camaraderie. They have this resource if they're clever enough to stop and ask. That's the only problem. But so this can be a very useful thing to be aware of. Instead of using it as a stopping place, as holding us back from accomplishing things. You know, today we see a lot of women contractors. We see women out on the road working on road crews. We see women doing all kinds of things that would have never been considered possible 50 years ago. You know, and it's because they have overcome and incorporated this part of themselves, and somewhere along the line they figured it out.
Again, that strong, smart women. It is a different kind of intelligence. It is a different kind of wisdom. Again, that is able to accomplish a great deal. And we as men, we can tap into some of that Sophia energy, that wisdom
Of course.
within us.
And the feminine, you know, there are many, many men. My dad, when he had his little daughter, she's quite a bit younger than me, when he had her, he loved being the home caretaker for her. And it didn't start right at the beginning, but he put himself in that role. And his wife went back to work, and he retired, and he took care of Caroline.
Hey,
Hey,
what a
and
great idea.
joy, just received so much joy from that experience, and that's not a new concept. It's beginning to happen a lot, and circumstances, sometimes it's the best thing to do, especially times like this that are totally out of the norm, the traditional norm of society. And perhaps that's part of what, on the large scale, this experience will teach us as we move through this time of change.
But moving on, the both of these masculine and feminine attributes, the great overcoming that we must all accomplish is to recognize our own ego when our own ego is at play and getting in the way of our own spiritual growth and development. The ego is that in the story, in our historical narrative, that keeps us from developing our spiritual nature, keeps us from recognizing the Christ nature. And it says...
So we're moving into the concept of our egocentricity.
And of course, in the biblical narrative, in the Bible story, in the trip to Bethlehem, in the nativity story, that is represented by Herod. Herod is a king. All kings in the Bible or anywhere are the decision-making authority. They are the executive authority within us. They are the ones who say, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to proceed. Boom, boom, boom. This is the way it is. The challenge is that can become so demanding, so egocentric, so domineering that it stands in the way of spiritual growth. It stands in the way of accomplishing what we want to accomplish.
And so, I mean, Herod, if you look at him metaphysically, he determines that he's going to kill all of the firstborn, all of the recent born children.
Because he's looking for this Christ idea.
Right.
He wants to quash this idea. Right. And
well, he wants to possess it. He wants to be the sole source. And so we can guess that somewhere inside of him, he's aware that he has a Christ presence also. You see, we have to not sell Herod short.
But ego is always looking for a way to suppress our spiritual nature, to push it down, to stand in opposition of our spiritual unfolding. So recognizing that within us that rejects or wants to oppress this new idea of the Christ being born within us, we have to recognize it and bring it up to the surface. Take a good hard look at our own ego, at our own Herod, our own dominating presence. We have to take a look at that. And that is the first step in being able to say, you know what, that really isn't serving me. It isn't good to me. It isn't good for me. It isn't getting me what I desire.
Well, we need to protect the Christ presence when it's very vulnerable. And yes, and work with that Herod part. The Herod, the egocentric part.
And I'm going to read a little bit from your mom's book here. Beginning in infancy, even before we can speak, we can try different ways to let our parents or our caretakers know our needs for food, for sleep, for comfort, for attention. And we repeat that way, that result in satisfaction, and then they become habits. So that's sort of how it begins, is that we figure out that when we're kids, when we're babies, when we're infants, that when we cry, Mom comes and feeds us, Dad comes and changes us, and we get what we want. Yep. But then, usually it's about the age of 2, we figure out that it doesn't always work, and so we try harder.
Mm-hmm. We throw that hissy fit.
We throw that tantrum.
The 2-year-old.
We try different ways to get what we want and to adopt those that work. The ways that we learn vary with the kinds of environment in which we learn them, and the people around us reinforce our learning with their responses to us. Little by little, we develop a sense of identity as we equate what we believe we are with what we believe we must do to survive and to have and get what we want. So because our first responsibility is to survive, we protect our sense of identity in some fashion, and our egos are to some degree egocentric.
Which means center.
That's right.
Centered in us. Now, an ego is not a bad thing, but it is something we must be the master of.
Egos are like noses. Everybody's got
one.
Everybody's got one.
My mom always said, if you got a body, you got an ego.
That's right. As long as you're wearing the meat suit, you got an ego. There's no getting away from it.
The thing is to use it positively, to be aware, again, that this is a tool.
Mm-hmm. And the significance of Herod in the Christmas story is this egocentric, it is one expression of various egocentric types that he was one of the disciples of Carl Jung, Fritz Kunkel.
Not Herod, Fritz was the disciple of Carl Jung.
And so Fritz Kunkel came up with the concept of these different types of egocentric
there are 4
archetypes. That's right. And the first of these egocentric archetypes is what Kunkel calls the clinging vine. The clinging vine.
We'll all recognize this.
The clinging vine egocentricity tends to develop in girls and boys with lower vitality than their relatively indulgent, overprotective, and overly helpful parents and caretakers. In other words, if everybody else is doing it for you, then you are more than likely going to become this clinging vine character, especially if you...
you expect everyone to do it for you.
Kunkel calls this lower vitality. And I'd love to get a better description of lower vitality, but I think we know what that means. It's this idea that we are going to let others do for us. Mm-hmm. So clinging vines believe that they please people by being helpless. And so they become helpless.
Mm-hmm. And then they also, as adults, they have little tolerance for not getting what they want.
That's right. Adults with clinging vine egos remain childishly dependent. They believe they need some reliable, mighty person or some institution to tell them what they want to do or to take care of them. They feel powerless. They can imagine nothing worse than to be abandoned or forced to depend on themselves. So they believe they must be guaranteed security and protection. To them, the world at large seems frightening and unfriendly. Adult clinging vines have little tolerance for suffering. They play on the sympathy of family and even their own children and associates and others. They're just always dependent on somebody else to provide everything that they need.
And of course,
or think
somebody
they
else
need.
is always responsible
Somebody
for
else is
everything.
always their fault.
They're always the ones, somebody else did it to me.
They gain attention by being miserable and talking about suffering, talking about their suffering and their problems. They usually do not want advice about how to fix their problems, and that always amazes me. How some people can talk on and on and on at depth about their problems, but they don't want to hear about
What else they might be able to do.
well,
and
this is simple. All
do
you have to do is
something
go here and
instead.
do there, and oh, well, we can't do that. No. They believe that someone else must solve their problems for them. In extreme cases, clinging vines become the responsibility of society, of some public institution.
Yeah.
And then there is the star. Now, see if this sounds familiar to anybody. Star egocentricity tends to develop in girls and boys with a higher vitality than their relatively indulgent, protective, and admiring parents and caretakers. They use coaxing, cleverness, and charm more than tears, whining, or helplessness to get what they need or want. So this is the precocious child, the performer who comes in, and there's nothing wrong or bad about this. It's just an interesting to see the development.
And these are extremes. We're talking about personalities that in the extreme here. Everybody goes through different phases and may have some of these traits developed.
Right. Most of us have varied traits. Most of us, sometimes we're the star and sometimes we're the clinging vine about some things. And it is rare to find a person who is all one of these kinds of...
Well, when you do, you have a problem.
So adults with star egos believe that getting others to notice and admire them and like them can not only get others to take care of mundane or difficult situations. Well, you take care of this for me. You can do this. But it also pleases others. Sometimes stars work hard to be the best at what they do, but lots of times they settle for appearing to be the best and do not necessarily achieve much in the world. It's more important to look good than to be good. Convinced of their own cleverness and charm, they cannot tolerate indifference, ridicule, dislike, and rivalry, and tend to counter such responses to them with prima donna behavior. The worst thing that can happen to a star is to be ignored or lose dignity or admiration. Now,
We know somebody like that.
we know lots of people like this.
Our time is passing. So
Oh,
let's
it
move
really
on.
is.
Just
Then there is the
hit the high
Nero
spots.
or the tyrant. The tyrant is egocentrically tended to be developed in people who are of high vitality, reared by harsh, demanding, strict, or indifferent parents and caretakers. Feeling that the people around them against them are uncaring, they believe they must wheedle, pester, threaten, or behave violently to get what they need or want. And then there is the turtle. The turtle egocentrically tends to develop with people of lower vitality with their harsh, demanding, strict, or indifferent parents and caretakers. They feel overwhelmed by the apparent harshness of life, and they become hopeless, accept whatever satisfaction for needs they happen to receive, and give up asking for what they want or attempting to please anyone. They just settle back into their shell and let life pass them by. You're right. Our time really has gone very quickly.
And so we've shared this because, like I've said repeatedly, these are tools. These are tools. Metaphysics is a tool. The concept of archetypes is a tool. And these ideas are a starting place for understanding.
Being aware of these character traits in yourself is an important part of letting them go, of holding a higher vision for yourself, holding a vision of a life that goes beyond what you've experienced heretofore. Realizing that what I have been doing my entire life isn't really working out for me as much as I had hoped. So let's try something different. Let's try letting Spirit be in charge for a while.
What a good idea.
What a great concept.
Not just for a while, but for all time. And when you can just let it go and actually shift, mindfulness is about training yourself into a submission. That's not exactly the word I want. Acceptance of who you really are, your Christ personality, your highest self, your potential for all the good that you desire.
That's right. You're letting go of everything that isn't working. You're letting go of what you think you are at any given moment to put on and to accept what it is that you truly are all the time, the Christ presence within you. Yeah. So let's take this opportunity now to pour out the gift of God from within us through our tithes and offerings, and let's share this offertory blessing together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful. And thank you, God. And you can send your tithes and love offerings to paypal.me/UnityLincoln. That's paypal.me/UnityLincoln. Or if you're already on PayPal, you can send it directly to office@unitylincoln.org. You can also send us your tithes and offerings the old-fashioned way through the mail or through bank transfer by sending it to Unity Lincoln, P.O. Box 30209, Lincoln, Nebraska 68503. Or you can go to our website at unitylincoln.org, and there you will find a convenient link to click here and donate.
What a good idea.
What a good idea. And you can also support Unity Lincoln by signing up for the Amazon Smile program so that every purchase that you make at Amazon.com supports Unity Lincoln. And let's have this affirmation for our church family together. Unity Lincoln is blessed to draw the people, funds, and all that is required for the health and growth of our community and peace in the world, heart to heart. And let's,
we're going to do the Unity Hula.
Give and God gives it back to you. Give and God gives it back to you. Give and God gives it back to you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over, back in good measure. God gives it back to you.
And we've got some great things, experiences coming up for you. We
that's
need to
right.
share this with you.
That's right. As a matter of fact, next week, instead of, or maybe in addition,
No, instead of,
instead of, yeah, instead of
Same
our
time.
regular Wednesday night Unity Cafe, we will be sharing our Christmas Adam party. And this
Christmas Adam?
Yes, Christmas
What
Adam.
the heck is that?
Christmas Adam comes before the day before Christmas Eve, because Adam came before Eve,
That's right.
just like a man. Anyway, so our Christmas Adam is next week, and that's
It's a party.
It's a party.
We're going to
It's-
share things and bring the family around, gather a watch party. Just
some Christmas stories, some Christmas songs, and just being together as family. And that's how we feel about you.
so it will be on YouTube from
5 o'clock
5
instead of
o'clock.
6:30.
to 6, or short. It won't be an hour long probably, but it'll be bright and cheery. And so have a little eggnog.
That's
Join
right.
with us, and if you have other things to do, you should have plenty of time to do them that evening.
And then on Christmas Eve at 5 o'clock, we are also going to have our Christmas Eve candlelighting service, and that is going to be, of course, December 24th.
And that's very traditional for Unity Lincoln. We will celebrate the 12 powers. We will celebrate the birth of the babe. And it's a beautiful ceremony. 2 of our chaplains will be in service. And I hope that you will join us and just enjoy the experience. It's a very sacred ritual.
And of course, our Sunday morning worship service is every single Sunday morning at 10:30, live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. And my metaphysics class is at 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings. And we do have some other classes and events coming up.
And this will be the metaphysics as a general topic. Metaphysics, what is it you always say? A kind of a combination of philosophy and,
it's
and
what
theology.
it's what other people would call philosophy or theology.
It's about understanding yourself and the world that you live in.
That's right.
And so it's an important class. There's lots of rich content.
The nature of reality and the nature of truth. Truth with a capital T. Well, dear ones, we have just so enjoyed your presence here, and we want to thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Namaste. Blessings.
Namaste. God bless you. Enjoy the season. I hope you're warm and safe and snug wherever you are. And we will see you hopefully on Sunday, but we will see you also next week. I hope that you join us again.